Jason from @Scoon.art here, and I'm in the studio today, but I figure instead of drawing, we'd break up that monotony and take a look at some comics. Everybody likes comics. So today we're going to look at the work of Joey Fanoele. He's a independent comic artist from Portland, I believe, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. So if I get that wrong, sorry, Joey, I'll correct it in post. But he makes work that has such a quality to it. It's very imaginative, and what I like about his work is it's very simple, but he allows it to breathe and go where it needs to go naturally, and it ends up becoming not necessarily complex, but like more than the sum of its parts. He's one of those artists that really understands the idea of doing a lot with a little, and I really love his work. So much so, I own a couple of original pieces by Joey. And if you haven't heard of him, let's come on over to the art table and take a closer look at what makes Joey's work worth reading. So Joey has several books here that we can go through. The first one is a book called Dust. And this one basically, I love this book. This is the first book I got from Joey. And this was around these two books is when I discovered his work, if I'm remembering correctly. But Dust is great. It's basically is halfway a art book, halfway a comic book. And basically here's the little description here. A prison planet, an outpost for Station Leviathan. Dust is saturated with rot and despair. Convicts repair windmills to steady the flow of energy to Station Leviathan. But many decide they are better off dead rather than keeping the behemoth powered. Others go rogue, becoming bandits, explorers, scavengers, seeking purpose on Dust. So Dust, it kind of not only is a place, but it's kind of a character itself. And you can see that in, he has these... It's basically a book of like landscapes almost, of all different landscapes of Dust, but you can start to see, little facial structures or some anatomy, some recognizable anatomy in a lot of these rock forms, which even without that are just like beautiful compositions that are just like abstract, and you feel like you can feel the texture and the weight of them, even though there's not really much there to suggest it. You have just the positive and the negative space, and then the dipping and diving lines, which Joey is so good at. And then we get like a little character here for scale, walking amongst the rocks. These ones start to have like kind of a coral reef kind of feel to them, which maybe perhaps that is we get a black void over here. Maybe perhaps this is some water. Stuff like this reminds me of that Yates and Horton book I was talking about, the Book of Images. There's one specifically, I think it's on the cover, that's a good comparison to, what's going on here compositionally and what Joey's doing with his line work. And just the simplicity of it, too. Like, something like this is obviously, like, complex. There's a lot of interlocking lines, but it's really... all he's doing is just the contour of these forms to give it structure and shape. Because there's no shading on any of these, it's just black and white. So all you have to do to trust that these things are three-dimensional is the contours that Joey allows to happen with the dipping and diving of his pen line. But again, you also see that more of the anatomy happening in some of these rock forms here. We got like a windmill and like a ship here. So there's something going on story-wise here. This is another one that reminds me a lot of Yates. I think it's like this upward motion combined with like this sideways, like this right angle kind of composition here. You got like a foot, but it also just functions as like a beautiful like Midwestern plateau, in the desert. Something like this is really interesting. Like, I love that the playfulness of these rock forms that he's got going on here. And so, I mean, yeah, but that's basically it. So I don't want to give away the whole book here, but this is the setting that the sandbox that Joey plays with in his comics here. Hank the artist basically takes Dust, the character, the planet, the setting of Dust, and puts some humans or humanoids in them. The story of Hank the Artist, this is a black and white traditional comic. You know, you have this like outpost of like scavengers and thieves, and Hank is he's an artist, you know, that just as the title said, he's an outcast among outcasts. He's being bullied by all of his peers. You know, they rip up his sketchbook, and then he decides, I'm going to just pack my spare sketchbook and some snacks, and I'm hitting the road. And, you know, he has a little adventure, and it's a lot harder than Hank he expects it to be. Just like anything in life, you know, you get this one goal, I just want to draw, I just want to go somewhere and be by myself, and this is what it takes to get there. So this is not only is this like just a simple, relatable story for anybody that's creative or artistic, but again, Joey takes what he did here so well and ups the ante by inhabiting it with like, well, what kind of stories would happen with these scavengers, rather than this like, you know, this kind of like overview of it, you know, which is, again, is beautiful. They're two different things, but they're riffing on each other, you know. They're in dialogue with each other. Coral similarly ups the ante by adding color. This is it's not a full color book. It's still a black and white book. Mine came with a little sketch card here. The cover is absolutely beautiful, though. I love this watercolor paper texture. That's one of the things that Joey, like, you can see it on like these sketch cards and you know, on the original that he sent me. So this one, he's really playing with these harsh geometric formations. You know, we get a different character here named Coral, who, you know, we're starting action-packed. He's on the run from a giant bear, which reminds me of, this is one of my favorite pages here. This is so good. He's climbing down, descending. So Coral is a lot about just, like, getting below the surface. It's a underwater comic, you know, on a desert planet, which is, like, such a interesting dynamic to play with, you know. It's simple. It's like, well, you got a desert planet. Surely, and there's people on it. Surely there's got to be bodies of water somewhere. So he's just taking that simple kind of idea and exploring it, and he creates these like rich characters. What I love about this is Joey, his story beats love to linger on these small moments. You know, getting in the craft. Like, it's not about like the launching of the craft, which is the end result, but there's a progression of, you know, lying down to getting in the craft and launching the craft. There's like lingering on these smaller moments, give the story like a lot more room to breathe. And you can kind of feel the tedium, the smallness of these characters on this like vast kind of world there. And look at this page. This is absolutely gorgeous. Stuff like this reminds me so much of Mobius. This is where I start to get the Mobius feel from Joey's work. I mean, you get it a little bit in the other ones for sure, but something like this, like the openness of it, just the surrealism of it, the simple surrealism of it too. Just a round rock, you know. But Coral, you know, it's got a couple of backup stories too. Some backup artwork. Another fantastic addition to Joey's lineup here. 13 is a kind of a shorter vignettes. You know, we get some kind of shorter abstract stories. We introduce to a couple of new characters, 13 and Tortoise. And then we get a couple of Hank and Coral short stories sandwiched in the middle there. This one is full color. So this, I feel like this is more of a Joey experimenting with a bigger format and full color, because you can see the size difference. You know, this is more of a traditional comic book size. This is kind of a magazine size. And then even you can see that progression in size difference from the store. You know, you get the digest zine, traditional comic book size with a color, you know, cover. And then he's experimenting with putting these little, you know, sketch cards in there as pockets, which, like, this wraparound watercolor cover is gorgeous. And then now we got a full color comic book taking place on the planet Dust with our characters that we've come to know and love. And now a few new characters that we get a little bit of a glimpse, but not too much. Again, these stories are simple, but they're a little bit more abstract. I feel like there's information that either will be revealed or explored later, but we got 13 here who seems to be a bit sad, but finds this kind of glowing anomaly in the desert, and that's where that story ends. This is a fun one. I like this. Hank the Sea Captain. Hank is just living his best life possible, crossing over with Coral here. I love that ultimately a lot of his characters are just after these simple things, like wanting to be alone in solitude to draw, or I got to get to the bottom of the ocean to get some gummy worms, or some, like Coral was going after some peanut butter in the last one. We get Coral up on the dry land now. But, and then the last story here, Tortoise and Egret. This one was my favorite, I think. I love this giant tortoise that they're on. This one's got like a Fallout feel to it, you know, a little scavenging. I like their his little abbreviated way of drawing them off in the distance. Again, Joey's sense of scale is fantastic. And it's one of those things where, again, the simple choices he makes creatively, like, hold a lot of weight. He doesn't try to draw anything overly complex. It's just get the information out there, you know, communicate the scale, communicate the shape, communicate, you know, the perspective. That's it. So his last book that he put out was a remake of Hank the Artist. It's bigger, it's better, and it's in full color. So we already went over the story, but we can kind of compare and contrast here. You know, something like that. I really love the warmth that the color adds to these drawings. Especially his spot color choices on like the backgrounds here, the yellows and the orange and the pinks. These are gorgeous. Put that one down. And shifting to greens here when you're inside the tent. This is so great. I love this face with these colors. Like, it gives a lot of these, it gives these guys like so much more character. This is great. Like, it's again, Joey's creative choices on these hit the mark every single time. And these are independent comics that you can buy directly from the artist, or I think from Exploding Moon Press. You can buy it through them. Or just hit him up on Instagram. I'll put his information down here. You should definitely give him a follow, though. His work is amazing. But, yeah, this was great. So, I did mention that I'm friendly with Joey. When he was getting ready to put this book out, he hit up some artist friends to, you know, make some additional content for the, I don't want to call it content, make some additional artwork or comics for the special edition of Hank in full color. So he got a story by Mark Wagner here, Hank the Movie. You got a little comic there. This is my contribution. I have a pinup here. I was going after, what is it? I think it's Magritte. Oh gosh, I'm probably getting this wrong. The Magritte portrait of the guy with the apple in front of his face. So I love the surrealistic nature of Joey's work. And yeah, that was fun. And then here's the original piece. I own this one right here. Let me see. Just to show it off here. Get the ring light out of the way. So that way you can see it. And yeah, this also came with Pogs too. So that was a fun little like bonus kind of tchotchke to pair with it. You know, it features all the different pinups, and yeah, Joey's I love his work. I can't wait to see what he does next. You guys should follow him as well. What is his? Let me get his information on here. He's got to have it in the back here. Yeah, Portland, Oregon. Come on, Joey. You don't put your... Yeah, at Fanoele.art. There's all of his information right there. So you should definitely hit up Joey at Fanoele.art. His work's amazing. Go buy his books. Every single one of them are fantastic, but, you know, I think I gave you a pretty good breakdown if you just wanted to grab one or two of them. But, yeah. Amazing. I've been meaning to highlight his work for quite a while, and I'm glad I finally had some time to do that. Thanks for watching, and yeah, I guess read more comics, specifically Joey Fanoele's comics. Check them out.